Spoiler alert, there's a lot of answers, but before we get into that, I gotta clarify a couple things, starting with what my definition of storage in Terraria is to avoid confusion. I'm gonna say that Terraria world storage is any items/items that are existing in a Terraria world at a current time. So this means not only are we counting stuff such as chests and placed items, but also player inventory, portable storage, and dropped items. And although I'll probably still miss a couple things, at least I'm trying to cover all bases. I also need to clarify that I'm aware some items are crafted by combining multiple items, meaning technically a stack of target dummies would be worth 70 times more items than a stack of dirt blocks, but I don't have the time to figure out the exact optimal item setup to use for this video, so everything is just going to have a base value of 1. If you feel cheated by this, by all means, either leave a hate comment or do it yourself. So how are we going to figure out just how many items fit in a Terraria world? In reality, it's basically just simple 3rd grade math. Multiplying a bunch of stuff together and adding the results. Anyways, let's start with the player. If we look at an empty inventory, it's pretty obvious that there are 50 slots we have to work with, but there's also a couple more that don't immediately come to mind, such as the trash can, the player hand, which you can access by simply selecting an item, along with the coin and ammo slots, all of which can be filled with individual stacks of 9,999 items. But since we're also counting 4 portable storage items, we have to occupy 3 of those inventory slots, along with 1 equipment slot. We'll get back to those in a second. Speaking of equipment slots, the player has 3 armor slots, 3 vanity slots, 7 accessory slots on master mode, 7 vanity accessory slots, 5 equipment slots, and 15 die slots. And you can't forget about those 3 loadouts. Also, please note that the equipment slots don't have the luxury of multiple loadouts. Thank you. So now we have the numbers, just gotta do some basic math. 217 slots times 9,999 items gives us 2,169,783 items. Now we just gotta add the 3 storage items, the 30 player slots times 3 loadouts, and the 10 equipment slots, giving us 2,169,906 total items per player. Per player? Oh yeah, did I forget to mention you can have up to 255 players in any given Terraria world at once? Silly me. 2,169,906 times 255 puts the actual limit of player storage in a world at 553,320,930 items. And if you could believe it, this isn't even 1% of one of our final answers. But obviously you don't just have players in a world, you also have, well, a world. Specifically a large world that measures in 8,400 by 2,400 tiles. Now granted, unless you're using T-Edit, only 8,317 times 2,317 tiles are actually able to be viewed and changed by the player. But just because we can't access the Earth's core doesn't mean it isn't there. So 20,160,000 tiles it is. There's actually a lot of different things we're going to cram into this Terraria world, but let's start with the most obvious. Chests. As of 1.4.4.9, Terraria only allows a maximum of 8,000 chests in a world at once. So that means we can only fill 0.158% of the world with them. But also, don't forget the chests can't just be placed in the air. You gotta add some support. I'm using platforms. It takes 2 platforms to support each chest, so with 8,000 chests, we come out with 16,000 platforms, or 24,000 total items. 0.238% of the world. And now that we have all these chests placed down, it's time to fill each one with 40 stacks of 9,999 items. 8,000 chests times 40 slots times 9,999 items gives us 319,968,000 items, all crammed into this little tiny pocket of the world. So what is the rest of the world going to be filled with? Dirt, of course, but it's also going to be wiry, actuated, and painted. Specifically a world full of 20,160,000 wires, actuators, and painted dirt walls, along with the other 20,112,000 tile slots being filled with painted dirt blocks. Whew, and there we go. Here's our final equipment. Okay, one more thing. Terraria has a hard-coded limit of 400 dropped items being allowed to exist at once. So let's drop 400 stacks of 9,999 dirt blocks, giving us 3,999,600. Let's just throw 1,000 active projectiles in the mix too. 4,600,000. Add it to the total. And now we just calculate. 319,968,000 chest items plus 120,936,000 placed items plus 3,999,600 dropped items plus 1,000 active projectiles, giving us 444,904,600 items existing in this Terraria world. Now we just add the 553,320,930 player items, and we finally get the first answer of how many items you can fit in a Terraria world come out to be 998,225,530 total items. But let's just round that up to a billion for looks. So I can imagine you're probably asking, now what? Now it's time to explore alternate methods of achieving a max item count. Let's start with good old hacking. Imagine a world where Terraria didn't have a chest limit and you could place as many as you like without any need for support. All 20,160,000 tile spaces being taken up with nothing but chests filled with stacks of 9,999 items. I tried to make a world like this and Terraria kind of just said, nah, I'm good. But it's still cool to think about. 20,160,000 tile spaces divided by 4 tiles per chest gives us 5,040,000 chests. And then you gotta multiply by 40 slots and 9,999 items, which gives us 2,015,798,400,000 items in one Terraria world. We'll go ahead and tack on the player inventories, paint, wires, dropped items, and other stuff as well for funsies, as well as the 5,040,000 chests because they themselves are placed items. And that gives us 2,016,461,561,530 items. Definitely a messier number, but that's alright. Alright, quick question. Have you ever used magic storage? If you haven't, it's this super neat modded storage solution that allows you to create a link of kinda OP storage containers and basically allows you to solve all of your storage problems throughout your playthrough. The maximum tier container you can craft is the Terra storage, being able to hold 640 stacks per container, making the 40 stacks per chest just look puny in comparison. You see where I'm going here. Doing the same math as the chest, just bigger, gives us the jaw-dropping max item count per world at 32 trillion. 253,431,162,171 items. I don't think you'll have to worry about running out anytime soon. And for the last storage solution, skip all these boring limits and trillions of max items. Let's just go straight for infinity. Satellite storage is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. An infinite storage solution via satellite for all of you hardcore hoarders. And don't you dare try to tell me, well, technically it isn't in the world if it's a satellite. It's right here and I'm clearly not suffocating. Goofy. There really aren't any calculations to be done for this mod, so I'll just chuck a link to it in the description if you feel like you need to store more than 32 trillion items. Also, if you're curious how I got these answers, I'll leave a link to all my solutions in the description. Feel free to correct me on anything I got wrong in the comments. I actually found and had to solve a couple problems with my math while recording this video, so it's entirely possible I might have just gotten everything wrong. Anyways, later.